friends, my name is Jess. Welcome to Books Past Bedtime. Today I'm going to be talking about my December wrap-up and my January TBR. Sorry this video is a little bit late, but I've been kind of overwhelmed by end of the year content, but it is what it is, better late than never, so let's just jump right into it. So I am going to start off with my December wrap-up, and to get that rolling, I'm going to go through some stats for the month. So in the month of December, I ended up reading a total of 12 books, which is pretty average for me, although it is a little bit on the lower end. And then I did manage to read a total of 4,757 pages, which is honestly pretty average. So even though I read less books, I feel like I read more pages somehow. I think it's because I started some books and didn't finish them. And a new stat for you this month, I listened to 77.1 hours of audiobooks in the month of December alone, which is insane. But I do listen to those on 2 times speed, so really I only actually spent 35 hours listening to audiobooks, but that's still a lot. Anyway, my average rating for the month of December was 3.65, and breaking that down, I gave 1 1 star, 1 2 star, 2 3 stars, 6 4 stars, 1 5 star, and then I abstained from rating 1 book. As far as genres go, I read 4 contemporary fiction books, 1 nonfiction book, 3 fantasy books, and 4 thrillers. And I consumed those 7 via audio and 5 via physical copy. As far as the age group goes, I read 8 adult books, 1 YA, and 3 middle grades. Also, of these 12 books, 9 of them were written by white authors and 3 of them were written by authors of color. In 2020, I really want to work to get that ratio to be closer to 50% or even greater in favor of authors of color, so I just want to be transparent in giving you those stats. It's obviously not where I would like it to be, but I really hope to improve throughout 2020. So those are my stats. Let's just jump right into talking about the books that I read. I think I'm going to go in order from the books that I liked the least to the books that I liked the most. So the first book I'm going to talk about is American Dirt by Janine Cummings. I read this book for my video where I read the top 10 fiction nominees according to Goodreads of the year. This book is about this mom and son who are affected by gang violence in Mexico and they decide to immigrate to America. While this book is beautifully written, there is a lot of issues with it, especially behind the scenes. A lot of Own Voices reviewers point out that it was written by a white woman. She was given a huge advance that should have gone to an author of color who could write an Own Voices story about this immigrant experience. And because of these Own Voices reviews that really criticize this book for rightful reasons, I abstained from reading it, so that's why I'm talking about it first. It's on the bottom of my list. Next, The Wives by Taryn Fisher. This is a domestic thriller following this woman who, her husband has 2 other wives. They all live separately, they don't know about each other, but she starts breaking down the barriers and she goes and meets the 3rd wife and eventually the 1st wife. I gave this book 1 star. I hated it. I talked about it in my worst books of the year video. I read it because I'm also reading the top 10 thrillers according to Goodreads, and this was on there for some reason. I'm not really sure why. The twist is related to mental health. Basically, this book just says that women are crazy and you can't trust them, and I don't like the unreliable narrator to begin with, and especially when the reason we feel like we can't trust her is because she has a mental illness is just kind of icky to me, so I really hated this book and I gave it 1 star. The book I gave 2 stars to this month was Dash and Lily's Book of Dares by Rachel Cohn and David 𝗏𝗏thon. I really wanted to reread this book and watch the TV show, and I'm glad that I did because it really got me in the Christmas spirit, but unfortunately this book just really did not transition to 2020 well. It was written back in 2010, and there was just a lot of jokes and like weird asides that were honestly kind of offensive reading in 2020. Also, the characters in this book were just very 2010 YA. They were just like too quirky for their own good, pretentious, didn't talk like actual teenagers, etc, etc. But basically this book is about these 2 characters, Dash and Lily. Lily leaves this book with like a bunch of rules and tasks in it in the Strand bookstore in New York City, and Dash ends up finding it and he follows these tasks and they kind of trade the book back and forth anonymously, not knowing who the other is, until eventually they meet, and it's kind of like a little romance, Christmassy, takes place during Christmas in New York City. I liked reading it for the nostalgia factor. Like, I did really enjoy this book when I was in high school, but it really didn't hold up. I didn't end up liking it this time around. I found the characters annoying, as I said, and I just didn't like it. I don't know, but I did watch the TV show and I did really like the TV show. So I definitely would recommend checking out the show. It really got me in the Christmas spirit, so I appreciated that. And yeah, skip the book, watch the show. Probably the next book that I want to talk about is, I feel like I read this book so long ago, but that is The Chain by Adrienne McKenty. There's so many stickers on this book. I'm sorry, it's hideous, but I don't feel like pulling them off right now. So this is a adult mystery thriller. It follows this mom who gets this call like, yo, I kidnapped your child. In order to get your child back, you have to kidnap another child and get them to kidnap another child so we can keep the chain going. Sounds great, right? Like, sounds really thrilling. And it definitely was for the first 50%. So good. It was so good. Like the first 50% is a 5-star book, but then in the second half, it just is like the tension is over and we get into this weird romance and there's a lot of drug use. So I really wish Adrian McKinty just left the first half as like a little novella. It actually originally was a short story and then he decided to expand it into a novel. I'm not sure why. It was a bad choice, which men make bad decisions all the time, so I can understand. But you shouldn't have. This book got a 2.5 star from me because the first half was so good and it would have been so good as like a really creepy, fun thriller novella, but instead they had to turn it into this novel that just was not very good ultimately. Probably the next book I want to talk about is 𝗧𝗯𝗃 by Darcy Littlebadger. I did enjoy this book and I think it's really great, really well written, but it just had tropes in it that I personally don't vibe with, which wasn't the book's fault, it's just a personal preference thing. So this one ended up getting 3.5 stars for me, but it basically follows our main character 𝗧𝗯𝗃 and her uncle is killed and they think that there's more to the story, so it's kind of like a murder mystery. 𝗧𝗯𝗃 also has this ability to like summon ghosts, and so she has her ghost dog Kirby with her, helping her to solve this mystery, and it was good and I liked the writing. I liked the cultural elements, but what really bothered me was the magic system. Magic just existed in the world. Everybody knew about it. It wasn't like a special thing that were like vampires walking around. I just don't like that style of fantasy. I like my magic to either be secret or it to be like magical realism, you know? I don't like it to just be existing in the world. It's just a trope that I don't like. It's like an oddly specific thing that I just don't like in books, and so that's why I didn't really like this book. I also thought I read really young, which I think I just expected something different going into it. The main character is actually 16, so this might actually be considered a YA, but it read like a middle grade, so it was kind of confusing. Overall, like I think this book is definitely worth reading if you don't have my weirdly specific preferences in books, but it just didn't really quite work for me, so I gave it a 3.5 star. The next books I want to talk about is I finished out reading the Percy Jackson and the Olympian series this month, and so I read The Battle of the Labyrinth and The Last Olympian. I gave The Battle of the Labyrinth 4.5 stars and The Last Olympian 4 stars. These are both really, really great stories. I love them both. In this fourth one, they go into the labyrinth, Daedalus's labyrinth, and go on this quest, and then in the last book, everything culminates in like this giant war between the gods and the titans. So these are both really good reads. I really enjoyed rereading this series and being back in the world with Percy and his friends. I will link our most recent live show above. It's actually on my channel discussing The Last Olympian. I just enjoyed being back with these characters. I don't want to talk about it too much and spoil you if you haven't read the series, but it's definitely worth the read and I think it still holds up today. Would definitely recommend. So much fun. Probably my next favorite book was The Guest List by Lucy Foley. This is a like whodunit mystery. It takes place on this island. This wedding party goes to this island to marry the bride and the groom, and shit starts happening and somebody might not leave the wedding alive. So I have heard mixed things about this one, but I ended up really, really liking it. I'm not going to go into too much detail because this will be included in my Goodreads thriller reading vlog that will be coming out in a week and a week and a half. So look out for that for more of my thoughts, but I did enjoy this one, and will it win my ranking? I don't know. You'll have to watch that video and find out. I also read One by One by Ruth Ware. In December, I actually read this for the Disney Channel Games Readathon, and I talked about it a lot in my vlog in there. I really, really liked this one as well. I liked this even more than I thought I was going to. So this basically follows this tech company who goes away to this chalet in the Swiss Alps as like a company retreat. They're skiing, snowed in, all that jazz. Then they like really get snowed in by an avalanche and they're all stuck there and people start dying one by one. This was just like the perfect thriller. It had that isolation setting, those creepy vibes, twists and turns throughout. I really, really enjoyed this one. It's not something that's going to like shock you or blow you away. It's not really doing anything new per se, but I really enjoyed it for what it was and I thought it was a lot of fun. I think I am gonna give it 4.5 stars because I really don't know why I wouldn't give it 4.5 stars because I really enjoyed it. This one, even though I've already spoiled you, will also be included in the Goodreads thriller video, so keep an eye out for that. Maybe this one will win. I don't know. And when I say win, I mean me, because I'm the only one that matters on this channel. We don't care who won the Goodreads Choice Awards. We care who won the Jessica Joyce Awards, alright? Okay. Next, I want to talk about Transcendent Kingdom by 𝗖𝗪𝗄𝗃. This is a book about our main character, 𝗪𝗪𝗃. 𝗪𝗪𝗃 is a scientist, but she also grew up really religious, and so she, throughout this book and throughout her life, has been trying to blend those two aspects of her life together in a way that makes sense for her. This book is basically a character study of 𝗪𝗪𝗃 told in vignettes throughout her life. It jumps back and forth in time, so we get a very full, clear picture of who she is as a person and the experiences she's had and what has shaped her and why she she interacts with the world and the way she does. This was just a really beautifully written story, and I really came to know and love 𝗬𝗄𝗽 a lot. It really touched me, made me emotional, and deals with a lot of heavy topics like addiction, racism, immigration, religion, and science. I think this book has a lot of great things to say, and I really enjoyed it. If you want to hear more in-depth thoughts, I did talk about this one as well in my Goodreads fiction reading vlog, so you can check that out if you want to hear more of my thoughts. But this one definitely got a 4.5 stars for me. I really liked it. And my favorite book of December was The Girl with the Louding Voice by Abigail. In this book, we're following our main character, 𝗬𝗍. She is a young Nigerian girl who's really having a tough go in life. Her mother died and her father is now struggling financially, so he decides to kind of sell her into this arranged marriage. And this marriage is not ideal for 𝗬𝗍. This man already has 2 other wives and a bunch of other children, and she's just thrown into this house. And she's very innocent. She's only 14 years old, and it's just really hard for her. All she really wants in life is to go to school and to learn English and to become educated so she can have a louding voice and that she can stand up for herself as well as all the other girls in Nigeria. She wants to help girls in situations like hers. And so we're following her throughout quite a few years as she trades one bad situation for another until she can finally achieve her dream. One thing I really liked about this book was the writing style. It has this really cool technique where as we go through the book, in the beginning, the English isn't quite as good. 𝗬𝗍's dialogue is definitely very dialect heavy, and as we go through the book, you can see her English improve, which is just like I thought a cool stylistic choice. I really personally enjoyed this book a lot. I thought it was really beautiful. I thought it had a lot of good things to say, and I just really couldn't see why I wouldn't rate it 5 stars because I really loved it. The audiobook is also really amazing, and it kind of helps give 𝗬𝗍 a really strong voice, so if you're looking for an audiobook, I definitely would recommend this one. Those are all the books I've read in December. As far as I know, I actually forgot to talk about I'll Be Gone in the Dark by Michelle McNamara. This is a true crime nonfiction book following Michelle McNamara's work as she works to uncover the Golden State Killer. She was actually the one who dubbed him the Golden State Killer and really contributed a lot of research and connections to the search for his identity. She unfortunately died before they discovered the identity of the Golden State Killer, which is such a bummer, but this book really shows how much she contributed to the search and the ultimate success of the search in finding who the killer was. This was a really excellent book. I really enjoyed reading it. I'm very glad that I did. Also, if you're looking for a nonfiction that's pretty easy to read, this would be one. I breezed through it, reads like fiction. It's really good, but I am not going to tell you my rating because it's actually part of a secret TBR coming up, so be on the lookout for that probably near the end of the month. So those are all the books that I read in December. Now let's talk about my January TBR. I don't usually talk about my TBRs in videos, but I just decided to throw it in this one because, I don't know, I didn't want to edit all of the pictures into my plan with me. So that's one of the main reasons that I'm doing this, but whatever. Another reason I decided to film my TBR is that since filming my plan with me, I've decided to participate in like 18,000 readathons, so I thought it would be easier to talk through them than to try to explain them on my plan with me. I'm trying to figure out how I want to do this, so I think I'm gonna go by readathon, and a lot of these books are doubled up for different readathons, so the first time the book comes up, I will explain what it's about, but then if it comes up again, I won't. I'm just gonna hold it up and say, this is the book for that challenge. So that's how we're gonna do it. The first readathon I'm participating in is 12 Days of Bookmas, hosted by the Bookish Potatoes, Em and Claire, as well as Catherine over at Catherine's Ovary. This readathon started on December 26th and probably ends the day that this video is going up. So hopefully I will finish these by the time the video goes up. So I counted The Girl with the Louding Voice from last month for like a bunch of these prompts. So I'll put the bingo board up. So that's what I had prior to this month. And then I had, after that, 6 prompts remaining. So I decided to use In Holidays by Christina Lauren for 2 of them. This is a holiday rom-com Hallmark type of movie about this girl who, This is like a holiday rom-com type of story about this girl who gets caught in a time loop and she has to figure out what to do to get out of this time loop, and she also has this like childhood crush on this boy and they might fall in love. Actually, I've already finished this one. It was really good. No, it wasn't. It was okay. I give it 3 stars. We talked about it with the Page Turner Book Club. This was a Page Turner Book Club for December. So we talked about that on Sunday and it was a good discussion. Kind of. We didn't have a lot to say about it because it's kind of just a fluff book, but I did read In Holidays while drinking something warm, so I counted it for that, and I also read it while I was lying down, so I counted it for that. The next book I am going to read for this readathon is 12 Days of Christmas by Jenny Bayliss. This is another kind of holiday rom-com-esque story story. It follows this girl who is approached by this reality TV show. They're like, hey, let's set you up on 12 different blind dates. And she's like, sure, why not? And so she gets set up on all these blind dates. Well, to be exact, I think there's also like a childhood best friend in the picture that she might fall in love with. I'm not really sure, but I need to read this one because I'm going to count it for the prompt to read the group book because it is the group book. And then it's also going to count for me for the prompt that's like something about water because they're ice skating on the cover and ice is water. So I'm counting that for that. Next, I'm planning to read From Blood and Ash by 𝗖𝗓. This is a fantasy romance book. I don't really know that much about it. I think it's like some kind of forbidden romance, maybe between like a maiden and a guard. I think the main character is like not supposed to be, you know, I think she's supposed to be pure, if that means, you know what I mean? So I think that's where the forbidden aspect comes in. I don't really know a lot about this. I'm reading this for a secret TBR, so be on the lookout for that. But I am hoping to finish it before the 6th, and then I will count it towards, well, actually, I read it during the live stream, so even if I don't finish it, I checked that prompt off, and that's what it's counting for, so. And then the final prompt to complete the 12 Days of Bookmas little bingo board is to read a book with dual perspectives, and for that, I'm reading The Lovely War by Julie Berry, which I should finish tonight. I'm actually listening to this on audio and really enjoying it. It's a great audiobook. It basically follows this love story and it's told from the perspective of the gods. So Ares, Aphrodite, Hephaestus, Apollo, they're all sitting around talking about this love story that happened during World War I, I believe, between this girl and this guy that were from Britain. He enlisted in the war and she ends up going to France as like an entertainer for the troops because she plays piano. They fall in love. There's also these like two side characters, Colette and Aubrey, who are also having their own romance, which is super cute. So I'm really enjoying this one so far. I'm over halfway through and yeah, hoping to finish this one tonight. And it's definitely from dual perspectives. It's from like a lot of multiple different perspectives because each of the gods has a perspective. That's that one. I'm excited to get this one. This one's also in my secret TBR, so look up for that. The other readathon I will be participating in is the Treat Yourself Readathon that is hosted by my friends 𝗖cie and 𝗵𝗲𝗲, and it takes place from January 1st to January 7th, so it is also almost over. Hopefully I will have these books completed by the end of the week so I can finish this readathon as well. This is another bingo board readathon. I am not trying to black out the board because I think that would be a little bit too ambitious, but I am doing like the diagonal. I'll put it up on the screen so you can see what I mean. But for the prompt, read a book that you think will teach you something, I'm going to be reading The Lovely War because I feel like historical fiction always has something to teach you, so that's the reason for me putting that there. Hopefully it does teach me something, and if not, it teaches me that I like this audiobook because yeah, that's enough in my eyes. For the prompt, read a book you most recently acquired. I am counting In a Holidays by Christina Lauren. This probably isn't my like most recently acquired, but it's pretty close because it was in my December book of the month box, so I got it like only a month ago. For the prompt friend's recommendation, I'm actually going to be reading The Grace Year by Kim Leggett. This is a YA dystopian story. It's kind of Handmaid's Tale-esque. It's, I think, supposed to be very feminist. It's about this world where girls are only valued for their ability to marry and have children, but before they can marry and have children, they're all sent out in the woods on this grace year, and for an entire year they have to survive out in the woods on their own. And the purpose of this is to get rid of their magic because in this world women have magic. I'm not sure if the magic is real or not. I have started this one. I'm halfway through. Definitely enjoying it so far. This came as a recommendation from one of my friends, but it's part of my secret TBR, so I don't want to tell you which friend, even though everybody probably knows. So that's that prompt. And then the final prompt, book with your favorite trope, I'm going to read From Blood and Ash by 𝗖𝗓. I really love a forbidden romance trope, and I think that's exactly what this book is, so I think this will count perfectly. The next readathon I want to talk about is a Bookworm's New Year's Readathon. This is hosted by my friend Noelle over at 𝗏𝗏7pages, as well as a couple other lovely creators. I will link the announcement video down below for all of these readathons if you're interested in participating in any of them. But the Bookworm's New Year's Readathon is another bingo board readathon. I was gonna try and black out the board, but I'm participating in so many other things that I don't really think I can cover every single prompt. So instead, I'm gonna do an X. Like I'm gonna X out the board, and I think that's pretty good. So I'll do the 4 corners in the middle. And I have already completed one prompt, and that is a book you meant to read in 2020. For that, I am counting In a Holidays by Christina Lauren again because this book was supposed to be read in December for the December book club, and I finished it on January 1st. So counting it for that. The square in the middle is a book that's on the top of your TBR. For that, I'm going with Invisible Girl by Lisa Jewell. This is actually the Page Turner Book Club pick for January. I'm very excited to read this one. I've read 2 Lisa Jewells in the past and not loved them, so I'm hoping this will be the one that will convert me to a Lisa Jewell stan. I don't really know how to explain what this is about, but it has elements of like incels in the dark web and like creepy stalkers. I don't know what's going on in this book, but it sounds like right up my alley. I'm very excited to read it and talk about it with the book club, and it's definitely top on my TBR, so I'm counting it for that. For the next prompt, a physical book left unread the longest, I am going to be reading The Searcher by Tana French. I probably have books on my TBR that I've had for longer, but I've had this one since like summertime, and that's a pretty long time. Like, I feel like I've read a lot of the books that I've gotten this year. That's probably not true, but it definitely is the one I've had on my TBR the longest out of all of the books that I've already planned to read for January that I need to fit in somewhere, so this counts for me. This book is basically about this cop, and he is retired. He moves to this town in Ireland and really just wants to leave his past behind, but there are little boys disappearing in this town, and somebody approaches him and is like, nobody else is listening, especially not the police that work here. Can you help us find where these boys are going? So that's what this book is about, and it sounds right up my alley. I've been really anticipating it forever, and I don't know why it's taken me so long to get to this, but I'm very excited to do so. This is also in the Goodreads thriller nominees, so it will be included in that video as well. So I had to fit it in somewhere because I gotta read it. For a debut novel, I'm actually going to count 12 Days of Christmas by Jenny Bayliss. As far as I can tell, this is this author's debut novel, so that will work perfectly. Then the final prompt, a book written by an author of color. I'm going to try and finish Get a Life, Chloe Brown by 𝗕cie heç𝗁𝗏. I started this book in December and got halfway through and just never had the chance to finish it, and I had to put it on the back burner because of other things going on, but I'm very excited to jump back into it. This is about our main character, Chloe Brown. She's kind of like uptight a little bit, but when she has a near-death experience, she decides she really wants to try and live her life to the fullest, stop saying no to so many things, etc., etc. She creates this bucket list, and in order to complete it, she enlists the help of her landlord. He's not her landlord, he's like her, I don't remember what the word is, but he basically works at her apartment complex, and he's like hot and cute, and they've had like a lot of sexual tension, and so this is their romance ultimately. And halfway through, I really enjoy it, so I can't wait to finish it in January and love it just like everybody else does. Okay, and then the next readathon I decided to participate in very last minute, and that is the Among Us readathon. All the information for that will be linked down below as well. This looks like so much fun, and I just had to do it. The Twitter is so active, like there's so many people participating in it, and I just wanted in on the fun. Okay, I know I'm like overbooking myself always, but it seemed so fun. Okay, this is like a points-based readathon, I think, so every book you complete, you get points. I've decided to be an imposter. Surprise, surprise. Or am I? I don't know why I would lie about being the imposter, but anyway. For this readathon, you do have to do the first task in order, and the first task for the imposters is to fake a task. The prompt for that is to read either a standalone or a sequel to a series you've already started. For that, I have decided to count In a Holidays by Christina Lauren. This is a standalone romance, so it works perfect for that. The second task is to vent, and the prompt for that is to read a book that you think will surprise you. For that, I'm going to count From Blood and Ash by JLA. I have a feeling that I'm gonna like this book a lot, which is kind of surprising because I don't read a lot of fantasy romance, and I don't read a lot of like romance in general. So I also don't read a lot of fantasy. So I think that I'm gonna like this one, though, despite those things, so I think it will surprise me, hopefully. The third task is Blame Someone Else, and the prompt for that is to read a book with a morally great character. For that, I'm probably going to count Invisible Girl by Lisa Jewell. This is a thriller, so I feel like it is bound to have a morally great character in it, so I'm going to count it for that. And then to complete your tasks as an imposter and win, you have to kill 9 other crew members, and in order to do that, you pick a prompt from that crew member's color prompt list. Does that make sense? No, it doesn't, but whatever. So when I'm gonna kill Pink, one of their prompts is to read a book with a person on the cover. So I am going to read The Grace Year by Kim Liggett for that. As you can see, it's got a face on the cover. And then when I kill Red, I'm going to read a book with disability rep in it, and for that, I'm going to count Get a Life, Chloe Brown by 𝗕cie heç𝗁𝗏 because our main character, Chloe, suffers from fibromyalgia, I believe, if I'm not incorrect, chronic pain of some sort. And then when I kill Brown, the prompt I chose was to read a book from a genre that you usually avoid. For that, I'm going to be reading Credence by Penelope Douglas. Very scared. Taboo romance is not something that I read ever, so I'm scared of her, but I'm gonna read her for the content. Oh, and if you didn't know, this book is basically about this girl whose parents die, I think, and she's taken in by like her step uncle, and she goes to live with him and his sons, and I think she hooks up with all 3 of them at the same time, maybe? I don't know. I'm scared. Okay, and then when I kill White, I'm going to read a book with a beautiful cover. For that, I'm going to do Watch Over Me by Nita LaCour. I really am not sure what this book is about. I think it's magical realism. I think it involves ghosts. It involves this girl who goes to work on this farm because her life is shitty, maybe? I don't know. I'm reading this with the 20-something book club hosted by my friends 𝗕cie and 𝗵𝗂𝗲, who are also hosting that Treat Yourself Readathon. So I'm very excited to read this with them. This was kindly gifted to me by my lovely friend, Amanda, so thank you, Amanda. I appreciate you very, very much. much, and I can't wait to get to this one. I think it's going to be something that I'm really going to like, so I'm very excited to have an excuse to read this one. And then when I kill Cyan, I am going to read a book that was recommended to me. For that, I'm going to do The Simple Wild by K.A. Tucker. My good friend Caroline raves about this book, so I am counting that as a recommendation from her. This is a romance, I believe, that's set in Alaska. It's between this girl who moves to Alaska to be with her dad, and she meets one of her dad's employees. I think they're pilots or something, and he's like very grumpy and mean, but then they have a romance. So that's what that one's about. I'm excited to read this one. The Sugar and Spice Book Club, which is hosted by my friends Kristen and Amanda, are reading this for their January book club pick, so I'm reading along with them. So that's where this book comes from. I'm very excited to pick it up. Then When I Kill Black, the prompt for that is to read a book set in the past, or rather the prompt I picked for that is to read a book set in the past. For that, I'm counting The Lovely War by Julie Baird because this is historical fiction. This is taking a lot longer than I thought it was going to. When I Kill Blue, I chose to read the prompt, read a book with a plant on the cover, and for this I'm going to read When No One Is Watching by 𝗬𝗂𝗪 Cole. This is a domestic thriller, I think. Head empty, no thoughts. I do not remember what this book is about, but obviously it has plants on the cover. And I'm reading this for the Goodreads thriller video, so it has to be read, so I'm glad it has plants on the cover. Then To Kill Green, I chose to read a book with less than 250 pages, and for that I'm doing In a Dream House. This is a memoir. I believe our author is queer and went through some shit in her life, so wrote this book. I really don't know that much more about it. I'm very sorry that I don't have a description for it because I feel like of all the books I should have a description for this one. The reason I'm reading this one too is because of Kayla's Us Readathon, and I am doing it where I read one book to match the word every single month. The word this month is dream, so I'm going to read In the Dream House, and that also checks off my nonfiction book for the month, so it's doing a lot right here. That book is working really hard. And then To Kill Orange, I went with the prompt to read a romance, and for that I'm going to read From Lukov with Love by Marina Zapata. I believe this is a romance between ice skaters. I don't know if it's like a coach-student thing or if it's just like two ice skaters or like two like rival ice skaters. I'm not really sure, but I know that it's a romance, so I'm going to read it for that one. My descriptions just get worse and worse as we go. I'm very sorry. Okay, finally, my last readathon that I'm participating in January is the Scooby-Doo Readathon, and that's hosted by so many of my lovely friends here on BookTube. Amanda, Nat from Nerdy Nat Reads, Morgan from Morgan's Chaotic World, as well as Christina and Mel from Movies Digest. So this sounds so much fun. A Scooby-Doo themed readathon. I'll leave the announcement links down below. Literally just sounds like the best thing ever. Because I'm friends with all of these lovely ladies and I really couldn't decide whose team to be on, I didn't want to pick somebody over somebody else. So I'm kind of cheating. I'm gonna read a book for every person. I love you guys. I'm sorry. I couldn't choose. For Fred, who is Morgan, I chose to read the prompt, a book with a lot of twists and turns, and for that I'm actually going to count Invisible Girl by Lisa Joel. This is a thriller, so I hope it's got a lot of twists and turns. I just really can't talk. I don't feel like saying that line again, so I'm sorry that I sound like an idiot. And then for Daphne, I chose the prompt, read a book about a person that needs saving. For that, I'm going to read The Searcher by Tana French. As I mentioned previously, if you can remember, because I've talked about so many freaking books, there's some little boys that go missing in this book, so I feel like they need saving. So this book counts for that. And for Velma, I chose the prompt, a book with LGBT rep. For that, I'm going to count Watch Over Me by 𝗬𝗪. I am pretty sure this has LGBT rep in it. It's been tagged in a couple LGBT shelves on Goodreads, so I'm going to trust them and believe that it counts. And I believe 𝗬𝗪 is queer herself, and most of her other books have also been queer, so I would think that this one would be as well. Hopefully. And then for Shaggy and Scooby, aka the Roomies Digest, I chose to read the prompt, read a book with an animal in it. For that, I'm going to count Get a Life, Chloe Brown. As you can see, there is a cat that is a prominent character in this book, semi-prominent, I guess. So that's that. And then I am going to try really hard to read One of Us is Lying by Karen McManus, which is their group book for the Scooby-Doo Readathon. I'm not sure I'll get to it, and I don't know who I would give the point to if I did get to it, but I would like to try and participate in the discussion of this book, so I'm going to try and read it. I got a lot on my plate this month, and I haven't even told you everything that I'm planning to read. I don't know what this is about. It's a YA thriller, I think. I kind of feel like it's like a Breakfast Club thing, where they're in detention and somebody's killing people. I may very well have just made that up. So if I did, sorry. I don't know what it's about. Okay, then what do I have on this list that wasn't included? I think the only books I didn't include were ones that are for a secret TBR, and that is Night Film by Marisha Pessl. Sorry about the stickers again. This is a like horror book, I think, multimedia. And I think this girl's dad is like a cult film producer. Then weird shit starts happening to her. Oh, she's found dead. She's found dead. And I think they're trying to investigate what happened. And some of the stuff is like oddly similar, I think, to some of the movies her dad has made. So weird stuff. I'm very excited to read this one though. I think it's going to be so good. It's definitely probably going to creep me out though. I'm a little worried. I'm also going to read Shutter Island by I don't know, and I don't feel like looking it up. I'm very sorry, it'll be on the screen. I don't know what this is about either. I just know that it's a very popular movie. But I'm going to read it. For that same TBR, I am also going to read The Good Daughter by Karen Slaughter. This was kindly gifted to me by my very dear friend Caroline. Thank you very much, Caroline. I'm very excited to read this one. I don't know what it's about, but I'm going to read you the tagline. It says, 2 girls are forced into the woods at gunpoint. One runs for her life and one is left behind. I think that this is more of a legal thriller than Pretty Girls, which is one of my favorite books of 2020, but that intrigues me, so I'm excited to read this one. I really think I'm gonna like it a lot. Okay, that was excessively long, I'm very sorry, but that is my December wrap-up and January TBR. If you stuck with me this long, thank you very much. Leave me the stack of books emoji because I just have too many books on my plate right now, especially because today was my first day of my new job, so I'm like adjusting to working full-time again when I've been off for like a month. I don't know how I'm expected to read this much. I don't know how. I'm probably not going to, but you know, we can always try. Alright, anyway, thank you so much for watching this video. I really appreciate you being here. All relevant links are in the description. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter if you feel so inclined, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!